I have been gone, and I'm also in bed again. I make no apologies because I am fucking tired, and you can tell by my voice, I'm fucking tired. But anyways, I apologize for not being around so much this week. Some of you guys are probably stoked about that. Some of you are probably not so stoked about that. So I apologize for the people that care that I wasn't around. Um, but I've been making sandbags for work because in my um, in my province we're like looking at a pretty high flood threat. So 10,000 bags later, here I am. 10,000 bags on my table. Here I am. But anyways, so what I wanted to talk about um, just I want to touch on one thing, and then I'm going to go in depth about um, mindfulness. So um, I've been noticing a lot lately that we spend a lot of time comparing, and especially on this sub, because a lot of people believe that that's the only way to really like understand our worth in the world. And the idea of comparing is very, very detrimental because you don't really gain any knowledge as to who, like, what your worth is. Because every person has a different background and a different experience. And even if there's some things that we can compare, it's generally not useful. So the reason why I considered speaking on comparing is because at work, a gentleman that I work with, he spent about 30 minutes talking about like his failed job choices and like how other people view him. And the trouble is that his sentiment is basically the same that you guys have, and it's genuinely like other people are better than I am, and that's not fair to you at all. So the reason that is because you look at yourself and you see yourself in such a skewed manner, and I know this for myself. Like, I have far higher expectations of myself than I do of others. I always have. Most people do, to be honest. Some people don't. Some people have really low expectations of themselves and really high expectations of other people. But that's not. I would not say that's like the general population. I think the general population is the opposite. So, how you get around that is to show yourself the same compassion that you would show others. So, if you like put yourself in the shoes of me, imagine yourself being me and getting into a relationship with someone of any kind, of a sexual nature, and being with them and hearing them say some of the things that you guys have said. So saying the things that Red's even said, for example, like in Red's first comment, he had said that more or less that he was worthless, or he had no use in a relationship. And to me, that was maybe part of the reason why, like, the way he expressed it was part of the reason why I sought him out, because I could tell, like, this like how smart he was behind those comments, but at the same time the comments are so wrong. And like if you imagine me in that situation, how awful that is to hear, when you can tell how good and how important that person is, and yet they see themselves so poorly. Now, if you for those of you that do enjoy me being around, maybe the ones that don't, maybe this won't work for you. But if you were to hear me talk about myself in a negative manner, how would that make you feel? And it won't make you more attracted to me. It might make you feel bad for me, but it won't make you more attracted to me. And if you are attracted to me, it's probably not for the reasons that you should be attracted to me for. So I mean, there's a certain amount of attraction too, as well, when you have someone speak about things that make them awfully sad, because it gives you there's a little bit of trust involved. So I mean that will gain you a little bit of understanding. And I don't know, I'm so itchy. Sorry, my skin's dry from sand. But anyways, you'll get a little bit of a connection based on sympathy, and that's not really a bad thing per se, but it's not sustainable. Like, you're never gonna sustain a relationship based on pity or something like that. So what you do to combat that is to show yourself the same kindness you would show me or others. And it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult. And that's why a lot of people start doing the mindfulness stuff, or like people I've talked to individually start doing the mindfulness stuff, and then they often quit very shortly after. It's because it's not easy. It's not easy to be kind to yourself when you could easily find 1,000 things to pick apart, because you're in charge of you. And who you are is your own masterpiece. So when you think of an artist painting, a lot of artists in any respect will be very hard on themselves because they want their craft to be perfect. And I think there's in mindfulness we learn that it's important to strive for more, but it's important to also understand once you have pushed yourself too far. And right now you guys are pushing yourself too far. So when you look at an artist, for example, like Anthony Hopkins, for example, at this point in his life, he's at a very high caliber of acting, in my opinion. If you were to ask him today, and he were to answer you, I'm an awful actor, after all the things that he's done and all the things that he's accomplished, you would think he was a complete, he'd just be completely loony, because it's not reasonable. So I think it's important to know that, like, you as yourself, like, a lot of you guys aren't very old. You're early 20s, something like that. It's important to realize that you're at a very early stage of your painting or your craft or whatever that may be. And there's a predisposition to say, I'm not very good at this, and quit. But you're not gonna. You don't produce anything if that's what you do. It's far more. It's far more useful if you just continue, even though it's shitty in the interim. And for the people that are older and are still dealing with this, it just means your process took longer, and that's okay. It's not. For example, my parents divorced. They were close to like mid-40s, I think. My dad, until he died, was still dating. And to be honest with you, he was never like a fully formed person. Like he never got to see the payoff of his hard work. But to be honest with you, he didn't understand. He didn't understand that the work he was doing was counterproductive. Because he was looking for perfection, but he wasn't realizing or noticing that what he already was good. And, sorry, I don't know why this is getting me so bad right now. But, we all have to notice that who we are is good, even if in moments it doesn't feel good. For example, right now I could be hard on myself and say, why are you crying on this video? You're gonna ruin the video. Like I could find 1,000 things wrong with it. But taking the time to understand your emotion, even if it doesn't have a reason. If you have no reason for it, that's completely okay. Like, you don't always have to have a reason for every emotion. And some emotions just come about because your brain is one way or another. But to notice it, to stop and take a minute to notice who you are, not in relation to other people. Not in relation to other people. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. It matters who you are. Like, I could say, one of my friends could have done this. They're stone-faced. They wouldn't have cried in the middle of this video. But does that really matter? Like, it just, their experience is different than mine, and their experience is still good, and their experience is still important. But it doesn't change my importance. And that's something that we all need to realize. And the idea of bigger is always better, good things come in small packages, etc., etc. Like, you hear all these little things to spur you along. But in reality, we are who we are, and that is perfectly okay. I'm just gonna break for 1 second because I want to get something. So I was apprehensive in posting this when I got it because I felt it probably wasn't gonna help you guys because of where most of you are at the time. And I feel there's still a lot of people that aren't in a good place, primarily because of noticing these things, because of noticing that it's very like self-driven, these emotions, and a lot of people are having a hard time dealing with that. And that is completely fair. I also had the same sort of frustration, saying like, how could I let myself do this to myself? And like all these that can't be true. Why would I do that to myself, etc., etc. Like, you have all these emotions. It's sort of the mentality of loss, like how you respond to loss. So I just wanna give you this information now, since I feel that it might be more well received. But hang on 1 second. So, in the scenery of spring, there is nothing superior, nothing inferior. Flowering branches are by nature some short and some long. And when my mindfulness teacher read that out, the first thing I thought of was you guys. And the difficulty of that is that I know many of you don't want to be the short branch. But there has to be. Because if you guys didn't exist, then people like me would not have you. God damn it, it must be my period. Anyways. TMI, sorry. But it's true. If you guys didn't exist, people like me, and there are lots of them. There are lots of us out there. It just may not be that obvious to find us. But what would we do? Who would we have? So, in the interest of not comparing and understanding your own self, take that into consideration. It's okay that you are the way you are. And in fact, it's good that you are the way you are.